In the last 6 years, underwater noise in the Arctic Ocean didn't just increase, it doubled in 6 years. That matters because marine mammals there, narwhals, belugas, bowhead whales, they navigate, hunt, and mate by sound. That foundation is collapsing right now. But that's just one crisis. Polar bears down 40%. Permafrost releasing carbon that's been frozen for thousands of years, and it can't be stopped. Oil companies are drilling in the Arctic in the exact moment ice is melting. The warming from their emissions is opening their drilling opportunities. They're accelerating the warming that will eventually make their operations impossible. Military exercises expanding. Industrial fishing moving into ecosystems that can't recover. Black carbon darkening ice. Underwater noise disrupting marine mammal communication. This is cascading failure happening right now in 2026. But solutions exist. Real, proven solutions. Indigenous communities are leading conservation. Marine protected areas are preventing overexploitation. A 10% reduction in shipping speed reduces underwater noise by 40%. Welcome to the Green Blueprint. Today, we're diving into the Arctic for the first episode of our series, Climate Frontline Around the World. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you all 4 crises, how they interconnect, and why 2026 is the inflection point. Most importantly, I'm going to show you the solutions that are actually working. Subscribe to the Green Blueprint. Follow us on Instagram at @thegreenblueprint_TGB. Because what happens in the Arctic in 2026 will determine global climate stability for the next 100 years. The Arctic faces 4 interconnected crises, and understanding how they feed each other is critical to grasping why 2026 is the inflection point. Crisis 1. Biodiversity collapse. Let's start with the polar bears. Between 2001 and 2010, the southern Beaufort Sea polar bear population dropped 40%, from 1,500 bears to 900. That's a catastrophic collapse. Why? It's not hunting, it's ice. Polar bears hunt seals on sea ice. That's their entire diet. As the Arctic warms faster than anywhere on Earth, that ice disappears. And when the ice disappears, the bears starve. Max Planck Institute researchers studying this concluded polar bears face extinction risk. Let's go underwater. The Arctic Ocean was one of Earth's last acoustic refuges, a sanctuary where sound enabled life. That sanctuary is collapsing. Between 2013 and 2019, shipping noise doubled in multiple locations. In the Barents Sea and Baffin Bay, noise increased 10 times in 6 years. Other oceans took 30 to 40 years to reach those levels. The Arctic compressed that timeline into 6 years. Why does this matter? Arctic waters are shallow. Sound travels farther. Marine mammals, narwhals, belugas, bowhead whales, live in darkness. Their entire existence depends on sound. Narwhals modify their vocalizations and flee ship noise. Belugas detect icebreaker sounds from 85 kilometers away. Bowhead whales use underwater acoustics for mother-calf communication during critical development. All of this is being disrupted. Feeding fails, mating fails, those species fail and slowly disappear. In 2026, year-round shipping and NATO's Arctic expansion creates a soundscape genuinely hostile to marine life. The third biodiversity threat is fish. The Arctic Ocean warms 4 times faster than the global average. Fish species are migrating northward and deeper, creating new fishing opportunities. But China's distant water fishing fleet is expanding, following those new migration routes. Already linked to illegal fishing in other Arctic regions, Chinese fishermen are looking at agreement with Russia to expand their commercial routes. If the Norway-Russia fishery agreement, which survived the Cold War, collapses due to sanctions and tensions, you're looking at potential poaching and devastation of the Barents Sea ecosystem. The Central Arctic Ocean Fisheries Agreement prevents unregulated fishing in sensitive areas. Success is possible, but it depends on enforcement amid geopolitical tensions. Crisis 2. Permafrost carbon bomb. Permafrost is ground frozen for thousands of years. It's 15% of the Northern Hemisphere and stores thousands of years of locked organic carbon. When organic matter freezes, decomposition stops. That carbon waits. But as the Arctic warms, decomposition resumes, releasing carbon dioxide and methane back into the atmosphere. Here's what Max Planck Institute researchers calculated. At 2 degrees Celsius warming, permafrost thaw releases approximately 122 gigatons of carbon. At 3 degrees, that jumps to 229 gigatons. Roughly 3/4 emits to the atmosphere. About 20% releases as methane, 80 times more potent than CO2 over 20 years. This creates the permafrost carbon-climate feedback. Warming triggers thaw. Thaw releases carbon. More carbon means more warming. More warming means more thaw. The cycle continues, independent of human emissions. Once triggered, it cannot be stopped. And it's already being triggered. Here's what matters for your carbon budget. The Paris Climate Agreement allows approximately 305 gigatons of remaining emissions for a 50% chance of not exceeding 2 degrees warming. When permafrost emissions are factored in, that budget gets reduced by 13 to 20%. Just from permafrost. That's not negligible. Crisis 3. Pollution cascade. Black carbon from heavy fuel oil in ship engines settles on ice, reducing sunlight reflection. More radiation absorbs faster the ice melts. From 2013 to 2019, black carbon emissions rose 85%. But if ships switched to cleaner fuels, emissions would drop 50 to 80%. No retrofitting needed, just regulatory mandates that haven't been implemented. Shipping contributes 1 billion tons CO2 annually, the 6th largest emitter in the world. The pollution cascade, black carbon, accelerates ice melt, enabling year-round shipping. Year-round shipping means continuous noise disrupting marine mammals. Emissions warm the Arctic. Warmer Arctic melts more ice. The cycle reinforces. On top of this, in October 2025, the Trump administration opened the entire 1.56 million-acre Arctic National Wildlife Refuge coastal plain to maximum oil and gas development. This mandate requires at least 4 lease sales within 10 years. The Gwich'in indigenous nation depends entirely on the porcupine caribou herd that migrates across that coastal plain. This development will devastate food security and cultural continuity for an entire indigenous people. Now, you're not just dealing with shipping pollution, you're opening pristine Arctic to maximum petroleum extraction. Crisis 4. Human activity. Mining in Greenland threatens water supplies. Oil and gas opens Arctic waters. The European Court of Human Rights ruled Norway must assess climate impacts before opening new fields. But the Trump administration eliminated that hesitation. Anwar Coastal Plain is open, maximum development mandated. No environmental assessment, no indigenous consultation. Fishing expansion threatens slow-recovering Arctic ecosystems. Militarization disrupts indigenous communities. Arctic indigenous, Sami, Inuit, Gwich'in rely on land-based sustenance. Sami face military training, disrupting reindeer herding. Gwich'in face oil infrastructure, threatening caribou migration. Their voices are being drowned out by industrial expansion and geopolitical competition. Here's the critical piece. The New START agreement, the last strategic arms control treaty between the US and Russia, expires February 5, 2026. Russia suspended verification inspections in August 2022. Without verification, there's no dialogue. Without dialogue, Arctic military operations expand unchecked. NATO exercises intensify. Russian military presence hardens. This is crucial. New START expires in February 2026, the exact moment Anwar opens to maximum extraction. Northern Sea Route enables year-round shipping, and permafrost thaw accelerates. Industrial expansion and military competition move at full speed with zero institutional restraint. Mining, oil, fishing, militarization, geopolitical breakdown all converge in 2026. These aren't separate problems, they're interconnected crises. A marine ecosystem weakened by noise is less resilient to fishing. Polar bears, stressed by ice loss, are impacted by shipping. Indigenous communities face simultaneous threats. And now, institutional protections fail as strategic cooperation collapses. You're looking at a system approaching breaking point. Critical infrastructure failing at the exact moment human activity accelerates. But emerging legal frameworks create countervailing pressure aiming at reducing this impact. The European Court of Human Rights ruling on climate assessment. The High Seas Treaty, now in force. The Central Arctic Ocean Fisheries Agreement. These legal agreements create friction against the race to the bottom. For every crisis, solutions exist. Real, implemented, working. Arctic indigenous communities possess detailed environmental knowledge, enabling nuanced solutions. The Skolt Sami restored habitat in Finland. Their resilience strengthened, food security has improved, species have been reintroduced, new economic opportunities emerged, and women's leadership integrated traditional practices. The result? Ecosystem recovery and cultural continuity. The Inuit Circumpolar Council developed adaptation strategies, maintaining food security and integrating traditional practices into climate planning. Another success of how indigenous approaches integrate environmental sustainability with cultural continuity and sovereignty. Denmark's Arctic Council Chairship 2025 through 2027 explicitly prioritizes indigenous peoples. First-time Arctic governance centered indigenous leadership. Marine Conservation Networks. WWF identified 83 priority Arctic conservation areas. The Central Arctic Ocean Fisheries Agreement prevents unregulated commercial fishing, demonstrating international cooperation, protects ecosystems despite geopolitical tension. In 2026, these scale through with blue corridors, protecting migration routes, shipping management, rerouting vessels, or implementing mandatory speed reductions. A 10% speed reduction equals 40% noise reduction. Not new technology, not expensive retrofitting, just ships going slower. Nordic countries transitioning into renewable energies, strengthening Arctic communities' resilience. Arctic 6 Extended Energy Task Force brings universities in Norway, Sweden, Finland together, ensuring clean energy benefits local communities, not just exporting value south. Arctic advantages from hydropower, wind, geothermal. Vast renewable spaces. Place-based production, reducing transportation losses. 2025 initiative defines Arctic green transition through policy addressing economic growth, indigenous rights, and community resilience. Not extraction and exploitation. Regeneration. Across 5 solution areas, indigenous conservation, marine networks, renewable energy, governance and research, momentum exists. Real. Measurable. Momentum to protect the climate frontline of the Arctic. Your connection to the Arctic. 1,000 years of sustainable living threatened in 2026. Global climate stability. Biodiversity tipping points with ecosystems that cannot recover from rapid change. That's what's at stake. And perhaps most importantly, a geopolitical cooperation model. The Arctic shows whether humanity can cooperate on existential issues when nations disagree. Will you help? Thanks for watching The Green Blueprint. If this mattered to you, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at thegreenblueprint_TGB for daily climate action. Share this with someone who needs to understand why 2026 is the inflection point for the Arctic and for all of us. The Arctic's future depends on decisions we make today. Stay green, stay healthy, stay informed.